This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. If I can get my headphone in. Neil McCabe on the line with us right now. He is a writer for Breitbart.com and a political reporter for Breitbart News and author of The Not So Friendly Skies. You can tweet him at Neil W. McCabe or at Breitbart News. And Neil, I understand that the president is saying, "Hey, let's let the airlines, run the air traffic control system." What a brilliant idea! I mean, they've cut routes by 20% to smaller markets. The seat space has shrunk to inhumane levels. This is from the Alliance for Aviation Across America. Fees have risen $6.8 billion just in the last year alone. And under a privatized system, they write, airlines would have free rein to cut routes, disregard customer complaints, and raise fees and taxes to outrageous levels. Sounds like something Republicans would love.
Well, Tom, thank you very much for mentioning my groundbreaking tome, The Not So Friendly Skies. I wrote that for the Washington Examiner, and the idea was, well, maybe your parents told you that Jimmy Carter deregulated the airlines. There was a guy named Alfred Kahn, who is sort of a libertarian conservative economist. And we've been told that the government used to control the airline industry, and then it deregulated the airline industry, and then it grew leaps and bounds. And sort of the central thesis of this book is that not only did the government not deregulate the airlines, it regulates it as much as it ever did, but it certainly has made flying just a miserable hassle, to the extent that I'm taking a trip this week, and I was sort of looking, my flight time would have been 6 hours with 1 or 2 layovers, and I'm going to take a train because I just don't want to put up with the security and the hassles and the layovers, and I think this is what a lot of people are dealing with.
Yeah, I get that, and we can talk about that if you want, Neil. I'm very familiar with this. In 1983, Louise and I opened a travel agency in Atlanta, Georgia. We built it up to a $6 million company, sold it off in '86, and retired, moved to Europe. And so I'm very familiar. And it was deregulation of the airline industry. It wasn't the airlines themselves that were deregulated. It was the terms of the sale of their product and the cities that they had to fly to that was deregulated. And in fact, it provided a great opportunity for Louise and I to make a pile of money. But, at the expense, I would say, of probably all of America's travelers. But that's a whole completely different issue. Let's talk about the air traffic control system. Why in God's green earth would we want to, Canada and the UK both, when they had conservative governments, privatized their air traffic control systems. Both of those systems went bankrupt in 2008 during the economic crisis. The one in the UK had to be bailed out with 70 billion pounds of, or maybe it was millions of pounds. I'll have to look it up. It was a whole pile of money anyway. Yeah, it was 65 million pounds taken from taxpayer subsidies. It's 130 million altogether pounds. Why? And why would we want to do this? Right now, the FAA costs $2.07 a mile to administer our air travel, and they do it for everybody. I'm a private pilot. Whether I'm flying out of a small airport, if I file a flight plan, I'm interacting with the FAA, or whether it's a giant airline. That's 8 cents per mile cheaper than NAV Canada charges, even with their having to be bailed out and all their subsidies. Why would we do this?
Well, because we have this antiquated system that we want to update to the 21st century.
What does that have to do with anything? The FAA has been in this process, the process of doing that for, a decade and a half now. Step by step. I mean, you can't just shut the system down and say we're going to haul away these old computers and bring in new ones tomorrow. You've got to gradually upgrade the system.
Able to do that, Tom. I mean, they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, on software and computer.
Oh, I know, and there's been radical upgrades. I mean, I've been inside air traffic control towers, and I can tell you the way they operate now and the way they operated 40 years ago, or however long it was ago in 1972 when I got my pilot's license, is, it's like night and day. I mean, it's just night and day. They are so sophisticated now, and they're getting better. Why, this is, if anything is the definition of the commons, a natural monopoly, something that it would be the air traffic control system. The reason the airlines want this to happen is they want it to be like with NAV Canada, where the airlines have 4 seats on the 10-person board. They get to decide what cities are going to have air traffic control, be under positive control. Those would be the cities that the airlines would fly into and fly out of. And already we've seen, as a result of Jimmy Carter's deregulation of the airline industry, a whole lot of places in this country no longer well served by air travel, or if they are served by air travel, it's absurdly expensive. Small towns like Grand Rapids, Michigan, or Lansing, Michigan, versus the hubs. The airlines want a hub and spoke system because it's most profitable, and now they want an FAA that basically caters to that. This seems to me like, it's just another screw the customers. And go ahead.
It's the government regulation involvement that's created the hub systems. The companies, the airlines are responding to the regulation and the encouragement. And that's why you have these there are 29, 30 airports in the country that are these massive super hubs, so that, if you want to get a direct flight in this country, you have to go to Atlanta, Dallas, Denver, Chicago, maybe JFK. It's absolutely impossible.
Yeah, this was not government regulation that created that, Neil. That was the airlines. They were, and why is it that the CEO of JetBlue, Robin Hayes, said, we intend to use the power gained from privatization to invest where it's most profitable for the airlines? He said, we also need to direct infrastructure improvements into the regions of the country where they'll produce the most benefits, like the Northeast Corridor. The pace of change really needs to accelerate, especially in New York, et cetera. I mean, go ahead.
Something has to change, Tom, right? Flying is not good in America today.
Yeah, I think that what we need to do is go back. We need to enforce the Sherman Antitrust Act.
And there are huge swaths of this country that are being cut off from air travel, and it's really unfortunate.
And it's because United was allowed to merge with U.S. Air, and it was because Eastern and United, American and U.S. Air and Eastern and United, and because the horrible damage that Carl Icahn did to TWA, driving Pan Am out of business, all of this stuff came along with the deregulation.
I would suggest to you that President Donald J. Trump, with his massive investment in our infrastructure and his attempts to sort of reform and remake this air traffic control system, is going to make things better for all of us.
He's not investing in infrastructure, Neil. His budget is calling for a cut in infrastructure.
It's not just government spending that's infrastructure. It's all the projects that are being held up.
His budget, Trump's budget, is calling for a cut in infrastructure. When he says we're going to spend money on infrastructure, either he's lying or he's talking about we're going to sell off the America's national parks. We're going to sell off, our air traffic control system. We're going to sell off our roads and bridges, and we're going to let private corporations come in and run them and put toll roads on them. In fact, this privatized FAA that they're talking about is going to operate on a fee-based system. And so, where are they going to go? They're going to go to the big cities. You're going to see less and less service to I would think Republicans would be outraged about this, given that, most of the rural areas of America are red states.
Conservatives and libertarians want the government out of the aviation transportation business altogether. And just let it flourish on its own, let it innovate. It's become fossilized, Tom.
So you want our aviation system to be run like a third world country where actually, I don't even know of any third world countries where they let the corporations run the air traffic control system. I'm not sure that America would allow a plane to fly into one.
That's got to change, Tom. I mean, there's nothing.
Why?
Where does it say in the Constitution that a bunch of hacks in the government?
Why our air traffic control system, Neil? Like I said, I'm a pilot. Our air traffic control system is spectacular. It's one of the best in the world. That's why they want to privatize it.
Well, there's other things involved too, Tom. There's other things involved.
Yeah, the airlines are, they're looking for further consolidation when anybody who believes in competition would be wanting to break them up.
Well, why don't we want the airlines to run the airline industry? Like, it's their industry. It's their company. It's their plane. It's their people. It's their deal.
No, it's our airspace, Neil. It is our airspace. We build these airports. We pay for them with tax dollars. It is the air over the United States. It is our safety. It is our families. It's our cities that planes fall out of the sky onto. You can't.
Well, obviously, it's against the law to hurt somebody deliberately. Obviously, it's against the law to present a safe plane as an unsafe plane as safe. That would be fraud.
Neil, the deregulation of the airline industry and the end of Sherman, the Sherman Antitrust Act under Reagan, between the two of those things, you've got over 70% of the airline industry now controlled by 4 companies. That is a functional monopoly. If Delta raises prices by $3 in some market, within a day, American and United will have done the same thing. And you know it. That's how monopolies work. There's no competition in the United States anymore.
Well, obviously there's a lot of things being conflated and a lot of things moving into this. I mean, you also have a problem where you have U.S. flagged carriers are competing against foreign carriers that are being supported by the taxpayers through the Export-Import Bank. You have labor unions, which exert tremendous influence on how
foreign airlines are not being supported through the Export-Import Bank. Boeing is being supported through the Export-Import Bank.
Absolutely. And who buys from Boeing? It's all the foreign carriers.
But okay. So you want more people at Boeing to be laid off, and you want more airplanes manufactured in China and Europe. Fine. What does that have to do with privatizing the FAA?
Are you telling me that the American worker can't compete with the Chinese or the other people? I mean, the American worker is the best in the world, Tom.
Right.
How dare you? How dare you, sir?
Nice try, Neil. Nice try. Neil W. McCabe. You can tweet him at Neil W. McCabe, or you can visit his website, or he writes for Breitbart.com. Neil, thanks for being with us today. Always good talking with you, Neil. We'll be back.